Welcome everyone to part 2 of this course about the community meeting tool. The first part provided an overview of the tool, and this second part gives some more practical information about using the tool. To get the most out of this presentation, it's important that you've read section 2 and annexes 5 and 6 of the ECo-PPR Field Researcher Manual. So if you've not yet done this, pause the video and do this now. The community meeting is one of the first activities to be carried out in each study area, because it provides the research team with an overview of the sheep and goat production system in the area, the main disease problems experienced by the livestock keepers, and gathers information about small ruminant trade and other movements. This information is useful for planning further fieldwork such as the household survey, the market survey, and PDS. The meeting should be participatory. Everyone is encouraged to share their knowledge and experiences. The facilitator aims to create a friendly atmosphere. Everyone's opinions are valued and respected, both men and women. Open-ended questions and participatory tools are used to explore key topics, starting with more general questions and then focusing on more specific topics. In each study area, one or more meetings will be organized. The number of meetings depends on the size of the area and whether there is variation in production system within the area. If the area is not too big and the production system is similar throughout, then one meeting might be sufficient, purposefully selecting a few women and men from different parts of the area. But if the area is large, or there is variation in production system or ethnic group, then it's probably better to organize more than one meeting to better represent the different parts of the study area. With the help of local leaders in the study area, approximately 20 men and women are purposefully selected for each meeting to represent their community. They should be people who keep sheep or goats and are knowledgeable about livestock keeping. If there is concern that women will not participate freely, it's better to have separate meetings for men and women. If you plan to have separate meetings for men and women, then you'll need to make sure that you have enough researchers and space to run 2 meetings in parallel. Otherwise, the 2 meetings will need to be run at different times. If the meeting is held with men and women together, then the facilitator and translator need to work together to make sure that women's opinions are heard. Some activities, such as simple ranking of livestock species and sheep and goat diseases, can be done separately with groups of men and women. Then both groups can report their conclusions back to the group. This encourages active participation, even in a mixed meeting. The research team should be at least 2 people. The meeting should be carried out in the local language of the participants. So if the field researchers don't speak the local language, then they'll need to engage someone to translate. Before the meeting, you'll need to spend time with the translator to familiarize them with the topics, questions, and tools. They should translate all the details of the discussions for the note taker, so that the information shared by the livestock keepers is captured. Some problems that can happen are that the translator summarizes the discussions too much, so important details are left out, or that the translator answers on behalf of the participants. Make sure that you brief the person beforehand to avoid such problems. Taking notes is a very important job. As much detail as possible should be recorded using the words of the participants. This is the raw data that will be analyzed. And write down quotations that express key information. If the participants agree, the meeting can be audio recorded as a backup, but depending on the field conditions, the recording quality may be poor, so always take detailed notes. Using the project information sheet, explain what the project is about in lay terms and the purpose of the meeting, and then ask if they're willing to participate. This is also the time to ask if they're willing for the meeting to be audio recorded. Reassure them that the recording is just a backup for the note taker, It won't be used for any other purpose. Now let's talk about starting the meeting. It's very important to start the meeting well, welcoming everybody and opening the meeting in line with the local culture. Let everyone introduce themselves, the research team and the participants. If people speak at the beginning, they'll feel more comfortable to speak during the meeting. If you're planning to run separate concurrent meetings for men and women, this is the time to divide the participants into male and female groups. Now we're going to practice using the community meeting topic guide. This first activity gives you a chance to practice the first part of the community meeting, including simple ranking of livestock species and participatory mapping of the area and livestock resources. If you're watching this as a group, pause the video and get into groups of 3 to 5 people to role play the meeting. One of you will be the facilitator and the others will pretend to be participants. If you're watching on your own, go through the steps, saying everything out loud to get familiar with how to phrase questions and explain the exercises. Simple ranking of livestock species should be done in groups of men and women separately, even in a mixed meeting. There's space in the form to record men's and women's results separately. Facilitate brief sharing of results from the men's and women's groups, and note any discussion about differences in findings. Now that you've completed the role play, think about how it went. What could be improved? What do you need to practice before doing this in the field? Keep a note of any questions that you have and remember to raise these when we have a live training session. By the way, at the end of Annex 5 is an example of how to record the results of a community meeting, including the results of simple ranking and mapping. Now let's practice doing a seasonal calendar. Get into your groups again, swapping roles so everybody gets a chance to facilitate. Follow the meeting guide and instructions in Annex 6 to practice facilitating a seasonal calendar. Pause the video to carry out the role play. How did you get on? If you look in the community meeting form in Annex 5, you'll see an example of how to record the results of a seasonal calendar. In the field, you can also take a photo of it, which can be uploaded into the record form. Now let's focus on the final parts of the interview that focus on small ruminant diseases. In your groups, swap roles again and role play topics 6 to 9 in the meeting guide. This includes another simple ranking exercise, a timeline, and using the seasonal calendar again for seasonality of diseases. Pause the video to carry out the role play. How did you get on? Remember to make a note of any questions that you have and remember to raise them in our live sessions. By the way, when you're doing community meetings in the field, it's good practice to sit down after the meeting and think about how it went, what went well, what could be improved, so that you learn lessons for the next meeting. Having finished the meeting topics, if you're running separate meetings for men and women, this is a good time to bring them back together. At the end of the meeting, you should allow time for the participants to ask you any questions that they have. Try to answer or give advice, but if you don't know, offer to pass the issue on to the appropriate person. The participants have given you their time and information, so if there's a way to assist them, we should do so. Don't forget to thank them. And don't forget about PPR, the main focus of this project. If during the meeting you get some information about a current disease problem that might be PPR, you should take a note of the details and make arrangements for the project to make a visit to investigate using PDS and outbreak investigation. Thank you for watching this presentation and practicing using the tool. I hope you found it useful.